Talk to me about
Good evening, Vanessa.
nationalising the railways. You seem like a young gentleman who might not remember this first time around, when I've got to say, and I do remember it, even though I look like a spring chicken to you, I remember it clearly, and it was no picnic. The railways were an absolute disaster when they were nationalised. People didn't want to go on trains. They were cold and unhospitable. They were late. They were few and far between. If you spotted one, it was like seeing the Loch Ness Monster. It was hardly an Elysian time of, travelled train nirvana. It was the absolute opposite. So what is the Labour Party so keen to nationalise the railways for?
Vanessa, you're being really kind. I'm 43 years old, so I grew up with British Rail, and I can reassure you that we're not going to move back to what we had 30 years ago. We want to learn from the best in the private sector, but what we think we've got right now is a crisis. Our broken railway system is having huge consequences. We've seen fares going up more than wages in the last 10 years or so. We've got record levels of cancellation, strike actions costing this country £25 million a day. And we want to make sure the passenger is the heart of a united and unified rail system that transforms rail services across our country, learning from the best from the private sector, but focusing on passengers and eliminating waste for taxpayers.
And how are you going to do it? How are you going to evolve this tremendously efficient and I suppose it will have to be cost effective, and you'll have to stop paying everybody compensation every 5 minutes because the trains don't run on time, and then you're going to have to stop paying the lawyers and accountants who argue about who owes the public compensation. You always say, no, it's not my fault, it wasn't us, and it was that guy over there and he should pay. I mean, there's going to be an awful lot of stuff you're going to have to change.
You're absolutely right, Vanessa. At the moment, because of the waste, because of the duplication, because of the bureaucracy, that's costing our country dearly, and people aren't getting the service that they deserve. And that's why we want to set up Great British Railways with a unified rail network that's focused on improving the experience for passenger. We think that will generate something like 2.2 billion in savings. It's not just my words. The Williams review that the government commissioned have identified that as well. So big difference. So bringing it into public ownership won't cost the taxpayer any money, but it will certainly improve their service.
All right, and talk about the means by which you will do this. It said in the first 5 years, because it's a fairly cumbersome and also very ambitious project, isn't it?
So if Labour get the opportunity to serve this country, that privilege to do so, we will set up a shadow Great British Railways board straight away to get working on creating this arm's length body. And we will then bring forward legislation to bring forward our plans to transform the rail network. We think that's the right thing to do, and we want to make sure we're using experts in using that organisation to deliver the outcomes that we want to see. And we also want to obviously action when contracts expire to bring it into public ownership. So it's a steady approach, but then leads to an improved service overall within the first term of a Labour government.
I think when you use the word contracts in conjunction with the word nationalisation, people of a certain vintage feel their flesh crawl, because we remember these government contracts that were given out to various different companies, and we remember the enormous mess made of most of them. Companies, guaranteed years of business and nobody monitoring what was going on, and huge amounts of money wasted and squandered, and a general feeling that there was a kind of limitless tap of money that could be just simply kind of delved into, and that nobody was carefully scrutinising the books and making them balance.
Well, Vanessa, I think if you talk to any passenger up and down the country, they will say the current status quo is just not working. We've got to see change. We've got to see reform of our railway system. That's why this arm's length body will be tasked at setting up a vision and a strategy to improve the experience for passengers and reduce the waste for taxpayers. And we will set up a passenger standards authority as well to hold that organisation to account, to make sure we see improvements to the services, both in fares, in terms of the reliability of services, and ending some of the cancellations that we see on services of today.
All right, final question. These striking railway workers, this has, paralysed big parts of the country, and it's interminable. If you're just trying to get somewhere and live your life, it's made things very, very difficult. How will the Labour government deal with strikers?
So I get the train every day, Vanessa, and I'm hugely frustrated by the fact the government just won't sit around the table and negotiate a deal with our unions. What we're seeing is that costing £25 million a day as strike action continues. We've got to reset that relationship with those working in the rail sector. The government should get round the table and sort out a deal to end the strike action and misery that it's causing.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Good to see you.